I never suspected my wife was cheating on me in the way people usually imagine. There were no late nights coming home drunk, no secret trips, no mysterious phone calls in the bathroom. What raised my suspicion wasn't another minute, was money. A lot of money. It started slowly, almost invisibly. New clothes showing up in the closet. Expensive shoes she never used to buy. Designer bags she casually left on the chair like they were nothing. At first, I didn't think much of it. I told myself she deserved to treat herself. We had been together for years. Married. Stable. Or so I thought. But then the spending accelerated. Weekend shopping trips that ended with bags full of things I knew we couldn't afford. Online purchases arriving almost daily. Subscriptions. Jewelry. Electronics. And every time I asked, the answers were vague. I saved a little. I got a good deal. I've been managing my money better. None of it added up. I handle our finances. I know our income. I know our limits. And I knew, without a doubt, that something was happening behind my back. The worst part wasn't the spending itself. It was how calm she was about it. No anxiety. No guilt. No explanation that made sense. Just confidence. Almost ease. That's when the first thought crossed my mind. She's hiding something. But cheating, that never crossed my mind, not at first. Because in my head, cheating looked different. It involved secrecy, distance, coldness. She wasn't distant. She was affectionate, attentive, loving, which made everything more confusing. She didn't pull away from me. She didn't start fights. She didn't change her behavior toward me at all. If anything, she seemed happier than usual. Lighter, more energized, and that should have been my first real warning. I started paying closer attention, not in a paranoid way. Just observant. I noticed how often she was on her phone, how quickly she'd flip the screen down when I walked by, how notifications would light up at all hours of the day, but she never hid her phone aggressively. She didn't lock it constantly or guard it with her life. She didn't act nervous. She acted confident. That's what made this so dangerous. Confidence disarms suspicion. I remember one night, lying in bed next to her, listening to her breathe, staring at the ceiling, wondering how someone could spend so much money without any visible source. I wasn't angry yet. I was confused, and confusion is the most uncomfortable place to live, because your mind starts filling the gaps with possibilities you don't want to believe. I told myself not to jump to conclusions, not to accuse without proof, not to ruin my marriage over assumptions. But something inside me knew this wasn't just poor money management. It felt orchestrated. If you're rewatching this, and you've ever felt that quiet discomfort, the one you can't explain but can't ignore, either stay with me, because what I discovered next wasn't one secret. It was 5, and it changed everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Stories like this are exactly why True Life Tales exists. Real stories. Real people. Real betrayals that don't always look like betrayal at first. Supporting this channel helps these experiences reach others who might be living in confusion right now. Just like I was, because what I found next didn't come from her phone. It came from her behavior. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Once the suspicion took root, I couldn't turn it off. It wasn't obsession. It wasn't paranoia. It was awareness. And awareness changes how you see everything. I started paying attention to patterns. Real ones. Not feelings. Facts. The spending wasn't random. It followed a rhythm. Every few days, something new would appear. Not small things either. High-end skincare products. New clothes she never wore around me. Shoes, still in boxers. And what bothered me most wasn't just the money, it was the purpose. She wasn't buying things for us. She wasn't investing in the house. She wasn't saving for trips we talked about. She wasn't planning anything that included me. It was all for her. Carefully curated. Almost like she was building a version of herself I wasn't meant to see. I went back through our bank statements, not in secret, but with growing concern. Our shared account made sense. Nothing strange there. But her personal account told a different story. Transfers coming in regularly. Not massive amounts individually, but consistent, structured, too structured. I asked her again, more directly this time. Not accusing. Who's come first? Where is this money coming from? She laughed. Actually laughed. Like I had asked something ridiculous. I told you. I've been saving. But the math didn't agree. Saving doesn't suddenly triple your spending power without changing income. Saving doesn't explain constant incoming transfers. Saving doesn't come with late-night phone use and sudden emotional highs. I started noticing how her mood shifted after being on her phone. She would smile in a way that felt private. Not happy in general, specifically pleased. Validated. Energized. She'd go from quiet to glowing in seconds. I recognized that look. It's the look of attention. But here, as the part that confused me the most, she wasn't too distant with me. She wasn't cold. She didn't reject me physically or emotionally. She still kissed me, still talked to me, still played the role perfectly. Which meant whatever was happening wasn't replacing me. It was running parallel to me. That realization was chilling. I began noticing how she guarded her digital life not aggressively, but strategically. She'd answer messages quickly, then put the phone away. She'd clear notifications. She'd never leave conversations open. But she never acted nervous, because she wasn't afraid of me finding one thing. She was confident I wouldn't find the whole picture. The turning point came one afternoon when I overheard her on a call. She didn't know I was home. I wasn't trying to spy, just happened to walk past the room. Her voice was different, not playful, not casual, soft, calculated, intimate. She was thanking someone, not like you thank a friend, like you thank someone who just did something for you. When she noticed me, she hung up instantly and smiled like nothing happened, said it was just a friend from an online group. That sentence stuck with me. Online. I didn't confront her then. I didn't explode. I didn't accuse. I needed to understand before reacting. Because whatever this was, it was bigger than I imagined. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed everything. Tea, money, the confidence, the secrecy that didn't look like secrecy. And then a thought hit me that made my stomach drop. What if it's not one person? What if it's many? That's when I started connecting dots I hadn't wanted to connect before. The different moods, the different spending bursts, the way she'd talk differently depending on who she was texting. It didn't feel like an affair. It felt like a system. And that's what scared me. If you're rewatching this, and you've ever felt like your partner was living a second life, that did T interfere with you but didn't T include, you know how unsettling that feeling is. This is why true life tailies exists. Because betrayal doesn't always look like betrayal. Sometimes it looks like confidence. Sometimes it looks like success. Sometimes it looks like someone getting everything they want, quietly. And what I uncovered next confirmed my worst fear. Because it wasn't one virtual relationship. It was 5, and each one thought they were the only one. Once the idea formed in my mind, I couldn't puzit Hawaii. What if it wasn't one person? What if the reason everything felt so calculated, so balanced, so controlled, was because she wasn't juggling a secret, but a system? That thought didn't come with panic at first. It came with clarity, and clarity is dangerous, because once it arrives, you start noticing things you've been ignoring on purpose. I began replaying the last few months in my head. Slowly, carefully. Her behavior didn't fluctuate the way someone hiding a single affair usually does. There were no emotional crashes, no guilt cycles, no sudden coldness followed by affection. Instead, there was consistency. She was always in a good mood, always confident, always emotionally stable. That's not how one secret behaves. That's how multiple sources balance each other out. I started paying attention to timing. When the money came in, when the packages arrived, when her mood shifted and something disturbing became obvious, The spending spikes followed different rhythms. Sometimes she'd have a great day, full of energy, and spend money immediately. Other times, there'd be a delay, like she was waiting for something to clear. It didn't feel spontaneous. It felt scheduled. One night, while she was in the shower, her phone lit up on the nightstand. I didn't pick it up. I didn't touch it, but the notifications kept appearing, different names, different tones, different icons, not one conversation. Several, and none of them were saved like normal contacts. That was the moment my chest tightened. People hiding one relationship are careful. People hiding many are organized. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed confirmation, not assumptions, because whatever this was, accusing her without proof would only push her to tighten her system. So, primera, chat. I noticed how she'd change her tone depending on who she was texting. Softer, sometimes, playful at others, empathetic, encouraging, admiring. She wasn't flirting like someone looking for attention. She was performing. That's when it hit me. She wasn't cheating emotionally the way people usually do. She was role-playing different versions of herself, one for each man, each one carefully crafted to meet a specific need. One night, I finally heard enough to confirm it. She was on a video call, door half closed. I wasn't spying. I was walking past when I heard her voice drop into that same soft, validating tone again. This time, she was thanking someone for being there for her. Then she said something that made my stomach turn. I don't need much. Just knowing you care means everything to me. That sentence wasn't meant for a husband. It was meant for someone who felt emotionally responsible for her. Someone who wanted to help. Someone who would send money. Later that night, when she fell asleep, I checked something I had avoided until then. Her email. Not her messages. Not her social media. Her email. That's where systems live. And that's where I found it. Payment confirmations. Platform notifications. Account alerts, all from different apps, different services, different usernames. 5 distinct digital identities. 5 different online relationships. Each one with its own pattern, its own schedule, its own tone. Some men sent small amounts regularly. Others sent larger amounts occasionally. One paid for subscriptions. Another covered emergencies. Another bought gifts directly. And every single one believed they were special, that they were helping someone who needed them, that they mattered. My wife had turned emotional manipulation into income, and I had been sleeping next to her every night, completely unaware. The worst part wasn't the money. It was realizing how deliberate it all was. She didn't stumble into this. She built Italiano. If you're listening to this and you feel sick to your stomach right now, I understand. Because the moment I realized the scale of it, the betrayal changed shape. This wasn't an affair. This was a hidden identity, and I had no idea who I was married to anymore. This is why True Life, Thais, exists. Because some betrayals are so modern, so quiet, so calculated, that people don't even know how to name them. And what happened next forced me to choose between silence and confrontation, between comfort and truth, between the marriage I thought I had, and the reality I couldn't ignore anymore. There's a strange calm that comes right before confrontation. Not peace, clarity. Once you know the truth, uncertainty disappears. And with it, fear changes shape. I wasn't afraid of losing my marriage anymore. I was afraid of continuing to live inside a lie. I didn't confront her immediately, not out of cowardice, but out of necessity. I needed to see her behavior one last time without emotion clouding my judgment. I needed to know whether she would tell the truth, if given the chance. So the next morning, I acted normal. We had breakfast together. She talked about her plans for the day. She laughed. She kissed me goodbye like she always did, and I remember thinking how effortless deception had become for her. How natural. That was the moment I realized this wasn't going to end with an apology. That night, I asked her to sit down with me. No anger in my voice. No accusations. Just seriousness. I need you to be honest with me, I said. Her expression didn't change, not even a flicker of fear. That confidence again. "About what?" she asked. I paused. I wanted to see how far she'd take it. "About the money?" She sighed, almost annoyed, as if this conversation bored her. "I've already told you," she said. "I manage my own things." That's when I told her I knew. Not everything, just enough. I told her I knew the money wasn't savings, that it wasn't random, that it wasn't innocent. For the first time, I saw something crack, not guilt. Calculation. She didn't deny it immediately. She asked how much I knew. That question told me everything. When I told her I knew about the online accounts, the payments, the different men, she went quiet. Not defensive, not emotional. Quiet. Then she said something I'll never forget. "They're not real relationships," as if that made it better. She explained it calmly, almost professionally, said it was all virtual, that there was no physical cheating, that it was just conversations. Emotional support, nothing serious. She said the money was voluntary, that no one was forced, that she never promised anything. She spoke like someone explaining a business model. And then she said the line that ended my marriage emotionally before it ended legally: "You're still my husband." That never changed. In that moment, I realized how differently we understood loyalty. To her, loyalty meant physical presence. To me, it meant integrity. I asked her how many there were. She hesitated. That hesitation told me she was still deciding how much to reveal. 5, she finally said. 5. Not one mistake. 5 ongoing deceptions. Each one nurtured, maintained, balanced. I asked her if she felt guilty. She said she felt misunderstood. That was the moment the conversation ended, not out loud, but internally, because when someone replaces guilt with justification, accountability is gone. I didn't yell. I didn't insult her. I didn't beg. I stood up and walked away, not because I didn't love her, but because I finally understood who she was. And that person was not someone I could stay married to. If you're rewatching this and wondering why someone wouldn't fight harder for a marriage like this, understand something important. You can't repair what the other person refuses to acknowledge is broken. This is why true life, Tailies, exists. Because betrayal today doesn't always look like affairs or hotel rooms. Sometimes it looks like screens, payments, and carefully crafted lies. And what came next wasn't rage. It was grief. Because once the truth is spoken, you don't just lose your partner, you lose the version of reality you trusted. People think the hardest part of betrayal is discovering the truth. It isn't. The hardest part is living with it afterward, when the shock fades, when the confrontation ends, when there's nothing left to uncover and you're alone with what you now know. After that conversation, the house felt different. Not quiet, empty, as if the walls themselves knew something had died there. She didn't chase me. She didn't beg. She didn't apologize the way someone who understands loss does. Instead, she tried to normalize what she had done. She kept repeating that nothing physical had happened, as if that erased everything else, as if loyalty was only measured by bodies, not by intention, manipulation, and deception. That's when I understood something crucial. We were speaking to different moral languages. To her, what mattered was what she didn't do. To me, what mattered was what she chose to do every day. The days that followed were heavy. Not dramatic, just heavy. We lived in the same space, but we were no longer living the same reality. She acted as if things could eventually return to normal, as if time alone would soften the truth. But once you see someone clearly, you can't unsee them. I kept thinking about those 5 men, about the versions of herself she created for each of them, the patience it took, the emotional intelligence, the calculation, the discipline. And the most painful realization was this: all of that effort could have gone into our marriage, but she chose not to. I moved out a week later, not because she asked me to, not because we fought, but because staying meant slowly erasing myself to maintain her comfort, and I refused to do that. The separation hurt more than I expected, not because I missed her, but because I mourned the life I thought I had, the trust I thought was mutual, the future I believed we were building together. I questioned myself constantly. How did I miss this? Was I naive? Was I too trusting? Did I fail as a husband? Those questions haunted me at night. But with time, another truth emerged, one that saved me. Trust is not stupidity. Loyalty is not weakness. And believing in someone is not a flaw. What is dangerous is ignoring reality once it reveals itself. I began rebuilding slowly. Therapy. Long walks, conversations with friends I had emotionally distanced myself from without realizing it. I started reconnecting with myself, the version of me that existed before confusion became my normal. And here's the part people don't talk about enough. When someone lives a double life, the betrayal doesn't end when you leave them. It ends when you stop trying to make sense of behavior that was never meant to be understood by someone with integrity. I didn't expose her publicly. I didn't contact the men. I didn't seek revenge. Not because she deserved mercy, but because I deserved peace. And peace comes from closure, not chaos. Over time, the anger faded. The disbelief softened. And what remained was clarity. I learned what boundaries actually mean. I learned that emotional fidelity matters as much as physical fidelity. I learned that someone can love you and still exploit others, and that both can be true at the same time. Most importantly, I learned that walking away from deception is not failure. It's self-respect. If you're watching this and you're living with a quiet suspicion, a financial inconsistency, a digital behavior that doesn't add up, don't ignore it. Ask questions. Observe patterns. Protect yourself. And if you're already on the other side of a story like this, know this: you didn't lose because you trusted. You didn't lose because you loved. You didn't lose because you believed in honesty. You lost because someone else chose manipulation over integrity. And that says nothing about your worth. This is why True Life Tales exists. To tell the stories people are living but don't know how to explain. To remind you that betrayal isn't always loud and healing isn't always quick. But clarity is always possible. Thank you for staying with this story. If it resonated with you, supporting True Life Tales helps ensure that more people find understanding instead of isolation. Because the truth, when shared, becomes lighter. And sometimes, losing the life you thought you had is the first step toward building one that's real.